Alright, I'm back for another episode of Cooking with a Thru Hiker. Why thru hiker and not just camper, backpacker, hiker, whatever? Well, thru hikers generally eat some weird stuff. They value efficiency and speed and caloric density more so than sometimes, you know, how good it is. I'm sure we've all heard of a ramen bomb, where it's just mashed potatoes and ramen noodles. I personally have never tried it because it sounds disgusting. Today, we're gonna be going over a nicer recipe. This is kind of like a Mediterranean couscous thing. We're gonna be doing it stoveless. If you've been hiking, camping, backpacking, you've probably carried around a portable stove to cook your meals with. And why wouldn't you? You know, it's a great thing. But over the years, I've been not cooking my meals. I've just been rehydrating them with water. Now, why would you want to do this? That kind of sounds disgusting in itself. Well, there's quite a few reasons why this is appealing to a long-distance hiker. If you're out for the weekend, by all means, you know, I totally carry out like veggies in tin foil and cook them over the fire and stuff. But when you're out there for 3 to 6 months at a time, hiking 15, 20, 30 miles every single day, day after day, you want to carry something possibly a little bit lighter or something that's going to be maybe a little bit more efficient to use to get those miles in. So one advantage a stoveless setup has over a full-on cook set or a full-on stove is that it's really lightweight. This whole kit right here, this plastic jar and this plastic spoon, only weighs about 2 ounces, while if you have your stove, your fuel canister, your titanium or aluminum cook pot, your spoon, maybe a windscreen, you know, that oftentimes can weigh upwards of an entire pound. So with something like this, you're saving possibly 14 ounces or so. There's not a whole lot of places where you can save that much weight this easily without really sacrificing too much, I feel. Because the meals are still good. It just takes a little bit of practice, and that's why we're going to go over a recipe today. Now, another reason you might want to use this, big reason for me, is the speed and the efficiency of it. All I have to do, I pour my meal into this cup, I add some water, and I'm set. I can hike another mile, 2 miles, 3 miles, while it absorbs that water and rehydrates, while someone with a stove is probably sitting in that same spot, boiling their water for however long that's gonna take, and then they're stuck with a boiling hot meal. So while I can hike on and get more miles and only spend a few seconds preparing my meal, someone who's cooking has to take a little bit extra time. Now, a lot of people prefer taking that extra time, and that's great. You know, this certainly isn't for everybody, but there are a surprising amount of people that also exclusively go stoveless on these long hikes. Personally, I've done this on the Appalachian Trail, Pacific Crest Trail, Florida Trail, Sheltowee Trace Trail, pretty much every trail I've ever hiked. You know, I've been doing this for possibly 6 years now. You know, and I think it's surprising that a lot of these foods taste just as good at room temperature as they do when they're piping hot. We're gonna go over some ingredients and then we're gonna make this thing. The base of this meal is couscous, specifically the Near East brand couscous. Always look for this package. Personally, I like the toasted pine nut, although there are a lot of different flavors. Plain, Parmesan, garlic, and herb, so about half a box of couscous. Really, that's the base. Like, you could eat that alone. You could rehydrate that and be set and on your way and good to go. You don't have to add anything extra. But I think the fun of these meals and what really makes these meals good is adding all these extra things to it. So I like to add a bunch of extra stuff. Sunflower seeds, can't go wrong with that. Next up is raisins. I do not think you can add too many raisins to this. You know, you have the crunch with all your extra seeds and nuts. You have the couscous as a nice base. And then raisins give it a nice like chewy consistency and a little bit more sweetness. If you're more of a cranberry person, you can go for craisins. Those are also very good. Now, to spice this up a little bit extra, the couscous alone comes with spices, but I like to add some curry powder. Now, something else you can do, a lot of different grocery stores you can find soup mixes. This one in particular, it's called a vegetable recipe mix. And it's basically just a bunch of dehydrated vegetables in there. And for the final thing, what I add is olive oil. Olive oil is a fantastic way to get extra calories into your meal. The amount of calories you get for the amount of weight that's in olive oil is really incredible. So olive oil is something I carry at all times. Now, all these ingredients, I just buy them in bulk and I prepackage them in these little baggies, so I'm ready to go. Now, the beauty of some of these ingredients, say the pine nuts or the sunflower seeds or the raisins, is that if you don't use all of the bulk that you bought in these meals, they're very nice for just snacking on as well. With stoveless cooking, all you really have to do is pour your bag of ingredients into your cup and add some water. I think the trick to adding water is add less than you think you need, because you can always add more later. Same goes for a lot of these ingredients. Once I have my water, I just shake it up. Now I can put it in my pack, go hike for another mile, 2 miles, 3 miles, 5 miles, and then the second I sit down to actually camp, I am good to go. So realistically, maybe an hour before sunset, a half an hour before sunset, I just stop for a quick 5 to 10 minutes. I add my ingredients into my cup, I add some water, I get up and I keep hiking. So now we're gonna wait for this to rehydrate. I think it takes about 15 or so minutes. It's pretty quick. Now, this was actually the meal that got me into stoveless camping. You know, I was looking for ways I could possibly lighten up my pack, and I was willing to try just about anything. And this is what was good enough to me at the time, where I was like, all right, you know, that's pretty cool. I think I will try that again. And again and again. Now, with this type of a thing, I mentioned that adding more stuff is always better, and that's definitely true. You can add tuna packets. That's something that would be really good in this couscous meal. Another thing you can add is sun-dried tomatoes. A lot of produce sections have little baggies of sun-dried tomatoes that are pre-cut. The list really goes on. Couscous is a fantastic blank slate. So personally, this is the type of stuff I like, but you may like different stuff. Now, obviously, this isn't for everybody. So I'll go through a couple little downsides so you know kind of what you're getting yourself into. In one way, this is really efficient. That can actually be a downside. If you're the type of person that really likes to socialize around camp, you're not really gonna have that option. Everyone else is gonna be taking time and cooking their foods. Yours will already be done. It will already be eaten. It's not really as sociable. For me, I'm not really much of a social hiker. I like to hike alone. I oftentimes like to camp alone. And if I was camping with others, I would probably be packing out something different. Another downside to this is you can cold soak mashed potatoes, you can cold soak ramen, you can cold soak couscous. Even though all of those like staples of hiking are possible with this, you don't have a lot of variety for stuff outside of that range. So you do lose that type of flexibility where you can do much fancier meals easier. That is certainly a downside. And of course, not everyone cares about how much their pack weighs. I know this, you know, I focus on it very heavily, and I know a lot of other people do, but you know, a lot of people would just prefer to carry the stove and have that extra flexibility and those possibly better meals. Okay, so it's been about 10 minutes and let's see what we got. So, you know, looks like couscous. Smells like couscous, but does it taste like couscous? Nice consistency, not too watery or anything. Smells good. Delicious, man. The extra ingredients really do it. Just straight up couscous, that totally works. But adding the extra nuts, the seeds, the raisins, really, really does the trick. If you can find those dehydrated vegetables, that's good too. Kind of spicy too. Maybe that's the curry. Again, anything like this, anything in backpacking at all, I think it's good to try it at home. You know, whether you get a new tent, it's good to try it at home before you go use it out in the field. I like it as it is, but maybe you would prefer it with some tuna. So if you took exactly my recipe out into the field without the tuna, maybe you wouldn't like it as much. As always, get out there, hike, enjoy, and reap the weight savings of the stoveless setup and the efficiency. The efficiency is the reason a lot of people do this. And I forgot to mention, in a lot of places, there's fire bans where you can't have a fire. You know, in a lot of places, I don't even know if you can have a stove. So things like the Pacific Crest Trail or the Continental Divide Trail, it may even be more conscious to kind of leave the stove at home, you know, and avoid those accidents and carry something like this. Anyway, that's all for today. If you like this type of stuff, if you want to see more recipes, I have some breakfast recipes, all sorts of other stuff I had tried out in the beginning before I kind of decided on like, wow, I love this one meal so much I'm never going to do anything else. Let me know and I'll do more of those recipes in the future.